I think we all know that the saying, trust the science, has taken a battering after the COVID scamdemic. Much of what constitutes today's science is funded by the Royal Societies with all their connections to organisations such as the Round Table and the Club of Rome. If you do not produce the required scientific results, your funding is pulled. Indeed, much of this science seems to be more scientism, which can be compared to a state religion itself. Currently, in August of 2023, the global cult is pushing the scam of human-caused climate change, a plan the cult even outlines in its own book, The First Global Revolution, as a fear-mongering weapon designed to create a common enemy, which will require a one-world everything connected to the smart grid. What most people don't understand is that it is humanity itself that is being lined up to be the enemy of Earth and humanity itself. It's an anti-human agenda by an ancient death cult. Author and researcher Wayne McRoy recently released a video going through the newly released notes of one Dr. Townsend Brown called The Structure of Space. Dr. Brown is credited with discovering the Byfield-Brown effect, which is when thrust can be produced by charging an electrical capacitor plate. What is most profound and fascinating about this is that it taps into the ether all around us and, most importantly, provides humanity with free energy. We ourselves are free energy, and we will always be. The global death cult leeches off us as a source of power. Running alongside the current Club of Rome fear-mongering, that is human-caused climate change, we've started to see the firing up of mainstream media's reporting on UAPs, or what was known as UFOs. In fact, it was Dr. Brown who first coined the term UAPs. What is important about Dr. Brown's discovery in this regard is that his notes show that we are capable and fully able to create anti-gravity craft that is powered by the free energy in the ether. These UAPs are likely man-made via this technology. That's not to say that ETs have not visited Earth. It's more than likely they have many times and still do, but these craft will be man-made, used as part of the fake alien invasion angle. Remember, these notes are over 100 years old. Tesla also appeared to have made the same discoveries. Of course, modern science doesn't acknowledge the ether, but even Einstein had to acknowledge it in his own hushed-up way to make his theory of relativity work. The ether is the framework for our reality. Of course, free energy would mean the end of reliance on fossil fuels, and if that is what the climate alarmists want, why are they not pushing for this technology to be implicated? Instead of electric technology, which at its base core still relies on the same industries. Is there a war going on, a power struggle within the death cult in every meaning of the word?
Because if you look, I mean, we largely accept that light will travel through a vacuum. Well, how is that possible? In order for something to travel, you need a medium to travel through. So if there's nothing there, how do you travel through this notion of nothing? And that's the whole thing. That's all man-made reifications, the existence of nothing. It's never been proved that there is actually nothing. I mean, everything has some type of matter that we could observe here in this physical universe. So even within what they call the vacuum of space, or however they want to describe it, there's still these small particle interactions that take place. And this is what they call in modern physics the 0 point, or the quantum type energies and things like that. So they try to equate all of these different notions to make the mathematical formulas work. And even Einstein did this. When he introduced relativity, he had to introduce something called the cosmological constant, which was a number that he was able to put into the mathematical formulas to make them work. He had to do that in order to make this work. So he came up with these 3-foot diameter disc airfoils, which he had to wire to a central pole in order to keep them from flying off and, in all directions or whatever. And he was able to charge them up. And when he did so, they displayed different types of velocities and stuff like this that were astounding, where if they mocked it up to like a 10-meter craft, a 10-meter diameter craft, they equivalated it to the speed would be somewhere like Mach 3 to 4, somewhere between Mach 3 and 4 is what this would travel if you were to like scale it up from the models that he gave the Naval Department here. So this was the crux of a lot of what he had going on. This was Project Winter Haven. And the whole thing, after it was demonstrated to the Naval Department, just disappeared into the black budget programs and went off the books. And it was shortly thereafter that Dr. Brown presented this to the Navy that NASA was formed. So, and the whole premise that was out in the public research in the 1950s called electrogravitics or dynamic countervary, it all disappeared from the public literature at that point in 1957. And there were only very few things that had circulated since that you could find about this topic. So electrogravitic propulsion systems, and I think this has everything to do with different technologies that are available today that could possibly generate free energy. Some of the models that we see for how a magnet works, well, there's a point at the center of the magnetic field which draws things towards it. And this would be what you could equate to 0 point or counter space, or however you'd like to describe that. So this is a good application to look at all things. I think consciousness falls into this realm too. I think all things operate on this basic principle, and it works very much like pressure mediation, whereas the high pressure in the ether will push towards low pressure in the ether. So when you are able to examine things in this way and think that perhaps this substrate which undergirds everything, this medium in which all things exist, ether, might have high pressure and low pressure areas, and that the real source or the real confluence where we can derive energy from comes from the pressure mediation in the ether. Once you understand that, this opens up the door to whole new possibilities for energy generation, for communication, for travel, for all of these different things. And I think this is what Townsend Brown was getting onto here.